welcome to another Teacher's Corner. I'm Teacher Kirby, and before we get started, um, please remember I do still have the GoFundMe open for trying to get a new computer. If you'd like to help out, either by donating or sharing, please visit the GoFundMe page. The link will be coming up or is in the top right hand corner of your screen. And thank you to anybody who has already donated. Okay, so this week we are looking at the 8472 counter command reputation. This is also called the Undine reputation. Let's see what those lovable tripods have for us. Okay, so we have on the ground reputation, let's look over first of all our status. And we have 6 tiers, as with every reputation. When you finish tier 1, you unlock the mental acuity and mental conditioning reputation traits. Mental acuity is actually quite a nice one. It basically gives you a passive bonus to damage while you are aiming. And myself, this is of course a ground trait. For myself, I'm always aiming when I'm on the ground, so this is quite a nice little passive boost to my damage. For you engineers out there, this also most definitely extends to your mines and bombs and other fabrications that you make this passive damage bonus. So, something definitely to consider slotting for your ground ground reputation traits. Whew, can't speak today. All right, moving right along. We have tactical precision unlocked for tier 2 and crucial component redistribution unlocked for tier 3. Tactical precision increases accuracy when tactical bridge officer ability is used, and crucial component redistribution increases control resistance and anti-proton resistance. Alright, tier 3, we have empathic adaptation and empathic reverberation. Empathic adaptation, chance to increase shield hardness when hit. Reverberation, chance to reflect energy and psionic damage when hit. Our tier 4 reputation unlocks Nanoprobe field generator and Nanoprobe feedback. The field generator, chance to increase shield hardness when hit. And the feedback, chance to reflect directed energy damage when hit. And of course our tier 5, this is actually quite a good OSHIT button. And so it's called Biomolecular Shield Generator. And it basically gives you a floating shield bubble in space that will heal not only your shields, but any of your allies' shields. And it works quite well. Basically, you can just shield tank if you have this up against quite a good amount of enemies for the duration that this is up. It does only last about 30 seconds, and then it will disappear. So that is your caveat, but quite a nice little low shit button when you're feeling it from your enemies. All right, so let's get into the nitty gritty of what our reputation projects are. I'm gonna skip the tier 6 unlocks. We all know what those are, or should by now. Alright, so our requisition, we have the Counter Command Exo Armor. So this gives a good amount of physical, kinetic, and energy damage resistance, as most armors do, as well as gives a toxic damage resistance and a psionic damage resistance. You'll find the toxic and psionic damage is the theme for the Undine or Counter Command things. And for 3 seconds after you perform a roll, you gain some dodge, some avoidance, and some run speed. Okay, as well as you get some 10% plus 10% physical damage, melee only. Alright, and furthermore, next we have our Counter Command Personal Shield. So this gives, again, psionic damage resistance. It gives some root resistance, some hold resistance, knockback resistance, and maximum, and of course has a 336.7 maximum shield capacity with 10% bleed through, and all the other pretty much normal things. With the shield, you have a 2% chance to release an energy repulsion wave that deals 25% of the damage of the attack to enemies within 7.5 yards. So basically, things shoot at you, and you have a chance to, your shield will shoot something back. Okay? And this trigger chance is doubled when hit by psionic attacks. But it can only be triggered once every 2 seconds. That's actually a pretty good lockout time. That's not very bad. Not too bad. Moving right along, right along, right along. All right, and then we have our weapon. We have two types here. These two types were the original, and that's disruptor and phaser. That's also a thing with counter command, is that just about everything has a disruptor and a phaser variant from the get-go, and then you have two other variants when you hit tier 6. So our first two variants, disruptor and phaser, and we have a 64 disruptor damage and plus 5 chance, minus 20 all damage, which is the disruptor thing. And then we have our exploit attack. So we have our expose attack as the primary, exploit attack as the secondary. Pretty self-explanatory. Same thing with the phaser, except we can stun and reduce run speed for 4 seconds instead of the resistance debuff. Alright, and for our second, for our variant that we get on tier 6, we have a plasma variant, as we see there, and we have a Polaron variant, as we see here. So that is our 3-piece. And then we have, now for our 3-piece, there we go. Alright, so we have, of course, our set powers. And first of all, it's important to note that this does come with a costume, and the costume is unlocked by accolade completion once all pieces of the set have been acquired. So when you get all 3 pieces of the set, you get an accolade, or all 4 pieces, you get an accolade, and boom, there you go. Alright, for our set powers, we have the 2-piece bonus ability is the Biomolecular Conduits. And let me make sure, yep. Biomolecular Conduits, and that gives a passive 10% of phaser, disruptor, plasma, and polaron damage, and a 5% plus 5% critical chance. It reduces the unstable beam's time to detonation by 33% and reduces the unstable beam's recharge time by 2 seconds. So, okay. Our 3-piece set bonus, we have Unstable Biomolecular Personal Shield. And that is a activatable, a clicky. It has a 3-minute recharge time, and it absorbs a number of points of damage for 15 seconds. on expiration, it gives a radiation damage on up to 10 enemies in a 5-kilometer radius. So they got to be pretty close. Okay, and it will give a radiation damage per second for 8 seconds on all the affected targets of the initial radiation damage burst. Okay, it also has a passive where it increases the biomolecular energy weapon proc chance by 2%. So it goes from 2.5% to 4.5% as an example. Alright, and then if you manage to get the kit frame as well, which comes from surface tension, then when you receive toxic damage, you get the toxin inoculant, and that means when you receive toxic damage, 25% chance to gain plus 20 toxic damage resistance rating for 30 seconds, and that will stack up to 3 times. And then we have something new to the two reputations here, and that is the profession specific item. So this is a science character, so in this case the profession specific ground item is a kit module called the Nanite Sonic Pulse, and this is a standard sonic pulse, so it gives a pulse radiating from the center of your character that has some knockback and disables run speed and etc. And does some damage from your character. But this also has the this has radiation damage attached to it, and has the biomolecular infusion. So this also has run speed and hold for a number of seconds. So there you go. That is the Nanite Sonic Pulse, and that is for science characters. If you are, of course, an engineer, that is going to be different for you. Engineers will get the Nanite Medical Generator. This is actually pretty cool. It's a bit better than the regular medical generator. It does give the healing as usual, but it also gives a psionic and toxic resist, as well as the heal that you get from the generator. So there you go. So, and then for you tactical gurus, for you tactical characters, you get the Biomolecular Photon Grenade. So this has the same things as a regular photon grenade. It gives kinetic damage, 50% shield penetration, and etc. But it also applies the biomolecular incubation, which diminishes run speed and gives radiation damage on expiration. Okay, so there you go. Those are the 3 kit modules from the 8472 Counter Command reputation, and yours will vary depending on your profession. Alright, moving right along, and I'm gonna go up and just close. There we go. Now we have our space items. First thing I want to stress is that there is one that is not going to be listed here that is a set piece that is called the Counter Command Multi-Conduit Energy Relay. You can get that from playing the mission Surface Tension, and that mission comes from, oh Lord have mercy, I believe it's, my brain has, no it's not, okay, so there it is, Surface Tension. So as you can see, I've got it right here, okay, And from that you get here's the kit frame that we were talking about. And they have, of course, the profession specific ones are the ones that are part of the set. And then we have the multi-conduit energy relay. Now this one gives phaser damage, disruptor damage, radiation damage, and projectile weapon damage. Okay. It is, however, a tactical console, something to consider when you are considering this. Alright, so let's get back into our reputation. We also have a console Hydrodynamics Compensator. This is actually a pretty nice one. It gives a good amount of weapon accuracy as well as flight turn rate, and some power setting for auxiliary and engineering. It also is part of the 4-piece set, and we'll get into what a lot of people do here in a bit. We also have, now again, this is the first one where we had two different energy types prior to tier 6. So we have the in this case it was the phaser and disruptor, even though they're not going to be listed the same here. Phaser and disruptor heavy biomolecular turret. Now I'm just going to go over one of these and then we'll go over the energy types because they are all the same. Alright, so we have a heavy biomolecular turret, in this case disruptor damage, and it gives, the big thing here is it has the biomolecular incubation, which subtracts an amount of flight speed for 8 seconds, and when that is over, gives radiation damage, ignores shields, and that damage is double versus Undine. Okay? Alright, so that is the big thing with this turret, is that it gives those benefits. Alright, now there are 4, once you reach tier 6, unlock tier 6, there are 4. The first 2 prior to tier 6 that you're going to see are disruptor and phaser. Once you unlock tier 6, you're also going to see plasma and tetrion. Okay? And then we have, of course, the last part of the 4-piece set. We have the enhanced biomolecular photon torpedo. This is actually a pretty good torpedo. It does its best work under as high yield. So yeah, but it gets, what does it get? It has some extra kinetic damage versus Undine, but a good amount of damage versus non-Undine. It has the biomolecular incubation, okay, which gives some, again, negative flight speed and radiation damage. It also has some crit severity, crit chance, and accuracy rating, and it has, because it's photon based, it has a pretty low recharge at 6 seconds. So you can fire off one of these babies every 6 seconds. Again, this tends to do its best work as a high yield torpedo rather than spread or just normal firing mode. Alright, so let's take a look at set bonuses. So for our set bonuses for this set, we have the 2-piece set bonus called Biomolecular Instability, and that is 7.5% bonus phaser, disruptor, plasma, and tetrion damage. Okay, it is worth noting that it's changed since the event of tier 6 reputations. Prior to that, it only gave phaser and disruptor bonus energy damage, so that is important to note. And because it has the word bonus in there, it does tend to be category 2, which is a much larger bonus than other things, and so it is worth, oftentimes, if you can work it out, getting this um, getting this bonus. We'll touch more on this later. Set 3, you get the Heavy Biomolecular Turret Barrage. In order for this to work, you do have to have at least one of the heavy biomolecular turrets. Otherwise, this is not worth your time. Alright, so you get a clickable with a 3-minute recharge. Now, this is pretty long in the world of STO. 3-minute recharge, you're usually only going to get to use it once. Upgrades your heavy biomolecular turret to deal damage to foes within 5 kilometers. Now that means that you have to be pretty close. Okay? So it's not going to do anything that's out past 5 kilometers. It also applies biomolecular incubation to all affected targets. That means to any target that is hit by your heavy biomolecular turret barrage. Okay, that's hit by your turret that's upgraded. Alright, so then we have our 4-piece set bonus called Degenerative Wave Signatures. And this means energy weapons have a 1% chance. That's pretty low, I gotta tell you. 1% chance to reduce hull healing by 50% for 10 seconds. This would be to your enemies. Disable hull regeneration to your enemies for 10 seconds. Remove one active heal over time effect from your enemies for 10 seconds. And you only get one of these every 10 seconds. And the debuff effect does not stack. So you would not get more than one debuff effect. And the chance for this increases to 10% versus the Undine. So it's pretty good chance if you're fighting a lot of Undine. Not so much if you're fighting anybody else. Alright, so let's step back here a second to the Biomolecular Instability, the 2-piece set. So a lot of people, what they do, because they know that the multi-conduit energy relay is part of this set, they will get the multi-conduit energy relay, which gives bonus phaser and disruptor damage, and then they will stack the Hydrodynamics Compensator on top of that to get their 2-piece bonus. That is a very viable thing to do, and much loved. Now I want to talk a bit about the turrets for a second, because a lot of people will go, well, there's 4 different turrets. I can just get one of each of the turrets and, there's my 4-piece set. Does not work that way. Any turret that you have, the first turret counts as 1 piece, and the subsequent turret is ignored. So you could have all 4 turrets, but they would only count as 1 piece of the set. So that is important to note. And while you can have one of each different flavored turret, so 1 disruptor, 1 plasma, 1 phaser, 1 etc., and you cannot have 2 disruptor or 2 phaser or 2 plasma, or so you can only have 1 of each flavor of turret, if that makes sense. Alright, moving right along. Now we have finally the Counter Command Space Set. What you've all been waiting for, the Fluidic Counter Assault Set. Well, I don't know if you've all been waiting for it, but here we go. Okay, now the Counter Command Deflector Array, I gotta be honest here, it's given just a little bit of everything. It gives the energy weapon training, projectile weapon training, hull capacity, shield capacity, exotic particle gen, control expertise. Frankly, it's not really given any that stand out, to where it's really good for one thing. So it's kind of a jack of all trades, master of none situation here. Okay? So, and again, of course, if you think that's what's best for you, cool. But as far as it standing out as being good for any one thing, I'm not seeing it here. Okay? Um, the impulse engines kind of got the same thing. I mean, there's a little inertia, there's some defense rating, there's some extra flight speed, extra turn rate, but really it's not standing out as anything like, oh, I gotta have it. Okay? And then the injection warp core, this one focuses on your engine power. It gives you an extra amount of engine power. It increases your maximum engine power so you can have 130 instead of 125 maximum. It gives some engine subsystem performance, which gives you extra engine power. And it adds some of your engine power, or a percentage of what your engine power is, to your weapon power as bonus power. And you may think, oh, cool, that's good. I get extra power to my weapons. But you know what, really? Your engine power isn't going to be your highest subsystem power, so this is going to be really quite negligible. Um, this does give you extra recharge time on your slipstream, so it doubles the recharge time on your slipstream, but really that's kind of meh, and gives a bit of engine power drain resistance, which again, frankly, kind of meh. So I'm not really seeing any one thing specifically that it's good at. I mean, if you go into fluidic space quite a bit, then you might find the drain resistance get really good. But you know, I mean, there's only one mission in the mission journal that has you in fluidic space. There's one TFO that has you in fluidic space. So it's kind of okay, I take it back. Maybe two missions that have you in fluidic space. But so it's kind of okay. So, and I hate to say this because I know the guys at Cryptic work really hard on these things. Um, the Singularity Core is pretty much the same thing. Okay, so there you go. And then we have our shield. And with our shield, we have 10% bleed through, which I'm not a fan of those. I prefer my 5% absorption, 5% bleed through. And then we have shield regeneration, 302.8 shield regeneration every 6 seconds. That is a good amount. It reduces anti-proton damage to shields by 20%. So if you find yourself taking a lot of anti-proton damage, you might want to consider using this shield. Let's see, when hit by directed energy attacks, you have a 2.5% chance to drain 10 weapon power from attacker. Now the key here is it doesn't say where that weapon power goes. So that is something that I wouldn't count on it going into your. I've never seen it go into your weapon power or your subsystem power. But it at least drains weapon power from the attacker, which will reduce the amount of damage they can do. But it's only a 2.5% chance, and you have to be hit by the energy weapon attacks. So it kind of counts on you being hit. So it's kind of a catch-22 there. You can drain their weapon power, but you got to be hit by it first. Okay. So what I'm seeing from this set, I got to be honest, kind of meh. I don't see any one thing that it really stands out as being good for. unless you are specifically specializing in fighting only the Undine. Then maybe I could see justifying a couple of these pieces, but not all, to be honest. But let's go over our set bonuses. So our set bonuses, we have Biomolecular Enhanced Defense. And this gives me our 2-piece set bonus. Gives a passive plus 12 anti-proton damage bonus resistance rating and plus 10 defense rating. Okay. Our 3-piece set bonus, Biomolecular Fluidic Space Counterblast. This is kind of like the photonic shockwave. It does have a 2-minute recharge. That's pretty long in the world of STO. It gives radiation damage in a sphere. Let's see. I think it's a 3-kilometer sphere. There it is, right in front of my face. It gives radiation damage. It gives a reduction in flight speed for 15 seconds. And it also destroys fluidic rift puddles. Okay? So really, again, unless you're really encountering a lot of Undine, like if all you do all day is play Undine Assault, maybe I could see this. But even then, okay. 4-piece set bonus, Biomolecular Reactive Shielding System. Again, another 3-minute, this is a 3-minute recharge. That's really long. Okay, absorbs 8,000 points of damage for 45 seconds. On expiration, it gives an amount of radiation damage for up to 10 enemies in a 5-kilometer radius. That is really small radius. Okay, and it also gives a radiation damage over time for 15 seconds on the affected targets. So on the ones that got the initial radiation damage, they get another radiation damage over time for 15 seconds. Plus there is a plus 50 repel, and it also gives a passive Biomolecular Enhanced Precision, which gives you a plus 10 accuracy rating. Okay, so I gotta be honest here, the space set is really not, it's not standing out as any one thing better than any other set that I've seen. So that is me done for this. Hope you learned something, and I will see you next time.